The bedroom door flew open with such force that the hinges groaned in protest. Chioma Okafor stood frozen in the doorway of her Lagos penthouse, her hands still clutching the shopping bags filled with her husband's favorite snacks from the market. The scene before her burned itself into her memory with crystalline clarity. Her husband Emeka, naked and tangled in their marital bed with a woman she recognized immediately. Ngozi, her own younger sister. Emeka. The scream tore from Chioma's throat, raw and primal. Her sister's head snapped up, eyes wide with shock but utterly devoid of shame. Emeka scrambled for the sheets, his face contorting through surprise, anger, and finally settling on cold defiance. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. The shopping bags tumbled from Chioma's nerveless fingers, oranges rolling across the marble floor like small witnesses to this domestic betrayal. Her vision blurred with tears, but her mind raced with devastating clarity. This wasn't just infidelity, this was the final, brutal confirmation of everything she'd suspected for months. How long? Chioma's voice came out steadier than she felt, each word sharp as broken glass. Ngozi had the audacity to smirk as she reached for her clothes. Does it matter, sister? You couldn't give him what he needed. The words hit like a physical blow. For 8 years, Chioma had endured the whispers, the pointed questions from family members, the traditional healers Emeka had dragged her to see. She had given birth to 4 beautiful daughters, Adiz, Amara, Chinelo, and little Zainab. 4 intelligent, healthy children who should have been enough. But in Emeka's eyes, and apparently in her own sister's, they were failures because they lacked a Y chromosome. Get out, Chioma whispered, her body beginning to tremble with rage. Both of you. Get out of my house. Emeka's laugh was cruel as he stood, unashamed of his nakedness. At 42, he still carried the arrogance of a man who believed the world owed him sons. Your house. Everything you see belongs to me, Chioma. I paid for it. This penthouse, the cars, your expensive lifestyle, all mine. He walked toward her, and she noticed for the first time how much contempt lived in his eyes. How had she missed it before? Or had she simply chosen not to see? I want a divorce, he said, each word deliberate and cutting. You've had 8 years to give me a son. 8 years of disappointment. I'm done waiting. Chioma's mind flashed to her daughters sleeping peacefully in their rooms down the hall, unaware that their father was destroying their family over something they had no control over. The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating spouse caught in the act. It was about the emotional manipulation, the years of being made to feel inadequate, the slow erosion of her self-worth. You'll hear from my lawyer, Emeka continued, pulling on his trousers. I'm giving you 1 week to pack your things and leave. Take the girls with you. I won't support 4 daughters when I could be building a future with sons. Ngozi finally stood, dressed now in a tight red dress that Chioma had complimented just last Sunday at their mother's house. The audacity of this betrayal, her own blood, her baby sister whom she'd helped put through university. Ngozi is already pregnant, Emeka announced with a satisfied smile. 3 months. And it's a boy. The room spun. Chioma gripped the doorframe to steady herself. 3 months. That meant this affair, this infidelity in marriage, had been going on even before their last anniversary when Emeka had whispered promises of forever in her ear. You'll regret this, Chioma heard herself say, surprised by the steel in her voice. Both of you will regret this. Emeka's hand shot out, gripping her chin roughly. Are you threatening me? Don't forget who you're talking to. I made you somebody. Without me, you're nothing but a woman who couldn't even do the one thing nature designed her for. He released her with a shove that sent her stumbling backward. Ngozi walked past, pausing only to whisper, he deserves a real woman, one who can give him what he needs. As they gathered their things and left, likely heading to whatever love nest Emeka had prepared for his mistress and future son, Chioma sank to the floor. The marble was cold against her legs, grounding her in the reality of what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. A message from Emeka's lawyer had already arrived. He'd planned this ambush, timed it perfectly. The divorce papers were attached, along with a custody agreement that gave her nothing. He was claiming she was an unfit mother, using her failure to produce a son as evidence of some deeper deficiency. But as Chioma sat there in the wreckage of her marriage, something shifted inside her. The tears stopped. Her breathing steadied. She thought of her 4 daughters, sleeping soundly, trusting their mother to protect them. She thought of the prenuptial agreement she'd insisted on signing despite Emeka's protests, the one her late father had advised her to demand. She thought of the investment accounts she'd secretly been building, using money from her own fashion business that Emeka had always dismissed as a hobby. And she thought of her best friend Adana, a ruthless divorce attorney who'd been waiting for this day for years. Chioma picked up her phone and made a call. "Adana? It's time. I need you to destroy him." As she ended the call, Chioma heard a small sound behind her. She turned to find her oldest daughter, 12-year-old Adiz, standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, I heard everything," Adiz whispered. "Daddy said we're not good enough because we're girls." Chioma pulled her daughter into her arms, and in that moment, her resolve crystallized into something unbreakable. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about showing her daughters that a woman's worth wasn't determined by the children she bore or the man she married. "We're more than good enough, my love," Chioma said firmly. "And I'm going to prove it." But as mother and daughter held each other, neither noticed the figure watching from the security camera feed in the building's parking garage. A figure who'd been documenting Emeka's comings and goings for weeks, gathering evidence that would soon turn this public disgrace into something far more devastating than anyone could imagine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What would you have done in Chioma's place? Comment below. The morning sun pierced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Adana Isa's law office in Victoria Island, casting sharp shadows across the polished mahogany desk. Chioma sat across from her best friend of 20 years, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. "Tell me everything," Adana said, her voice gentle but her eyes already calculating. At 38, she was one of Lagos's most feared divorce attorneys, known for dismantling wealthy men who underestimated their wives. Chioma recounted the previous night's betrayal, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. When she mentioned Ngozi, Adana's expression hardened. "Your own sister. That's a new level of low, even for the cases I've handled." Adana pulled out a legal pad and began making notes. "But here's what you need to understand. Emeka thinks he holds all the cards because his name is on the property deeds. He doesn't know about your prenuptial agreement, does he? He signed it 10 years ago, but I don't think he remembers. He was so confident I'd never leave him." Chioma finally took a sip of the coffee, grimacing at how cold it had become. Adana's smile was sharp. "Men like Emeka always forget the details. That prenup specifies that any business you started during the marriage remains solely yours, and it includes a clause about infidelity. If he files for divorce on grounds of your inadequacy, we counter with proof of his adultery. The court will eat him alive. He said I have a week to leave the penthouse. He can't enforce that. You have rights as his wife, and more importantly, as the mother of his children. Those girls deserve security." Adana leaned forward. "But if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. No mercy. This isn't just about the divorce. It's about making sure he can't use his money and influence to paint you as the villain." Chioma thought of her daughters waking up that morning to find their father gone, of how she'd had to explain that Daddy had made some choices that meant things would be different now. Adiz had been quiet, but the younger girls had cried, not understanding why they weren't enough. "What do I need to do?" Chioma asked. "First, we secure evidence of the affair. I'm assuming you didn't get photos last night." "I was in shock. I didn't think." "Don't apologize. That's what I'm here for. Adana pulled out her phone and typed rapidly. I have an investigator, Bakar. Best in the business. He'll document everything, where Emeka is staying, his financial movements, and most importantly, proof that he's planning to claim Ngozi's child while abandoning his daughters. A knock at the door interrupted them. Adana's assistant entered with a worried expression. Ms. Ease, there's a situation. Emeka Okafor's attorney just filed an emergency motion for full custody of the children, claiming Mrs. Okafor is mentally unstable and has been neglecting the children in favor of her business. Chioma's blood ran cold. What? That's insane. Adana's jaw tightened. He's moving faster than I expected. This is a preemptive strike. He wants to control the narrative before we can file our own paperwork. Can he do that? Can he take my daughters? Not if I have anything to say about it. Adana stood, her movements precise and purposeful. This is emotional manipulation at its finest. He's using the legal system to terrorize you into submission. But here's what he doesn't know. I've been preparing for this moment since I met Emeka at your wedding. She walked to a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. I've had my concerns about your husband for years. The way he spoke about your daughters, the comments about your failure to give him a son, it set off every alarm bell. So I've been quietly documenting things. Social media posts where he's made disparaging comments about women who only have daughters. Testimony from witnesses who've heard him publicly humiliate you. And most importantly, financial records showing he's been funneling money into a separate account, likely to hide assets during the divorce. Chioma stared at the folder, overwhelmed. You did all this. I did it because I love you, and because I knew this day would come. Adana's expression softened briefly before returning to its professional edge. Now, we need to act fast. I'm filing a counter-motion within the hour, and I'm requesting an emergency hearing. We'll need character witnesses, friends, your daughter's teachers, anyone who can testify to your capabilities as a mother. My mother, Chioma said suddenly. She'll testify. She never liked Emeka, thought he was too controlling. Good. Anyone else? Chioma thought for a moment. Pastor Olyamide from our church. He's counseled us before. He knows how Emeka talks about the girls. As Adana made notes, Chioma's phone buzzed incessantly. She glanced at the screen and felt her stomach drop. Messages were pouring in from family members, friends, even acquaintances. Someone had leaked the story to social media. Adana, look at this. The attorney took the phone and scrolled through the messages, her expression growing darker. A post from an anonymous account had gone viral. Emeka Okafor, successful Lagos businessman, forced to divorce his wife after she failed to give him a son despite 8 years of marriage. She's now trying to trap him with false abuse claims. #golddigger #modernwomen. This is character assassination, Adana said. He's weaponizing social media to destroy your reputation before we can even get to court. This is more sophisticated than I gave him credit for. Chioma felt the walls closing in. Her phone continued to buzz, some messages supportive, but many cruel. Friends she'd known for years were suddenly questioning her version of events. The public disgrace was spreading faster than she could comprehend. What do we do? Chioma whispered. Adana's eyes gleamed with determination. We fight fire with fire. I know someone at one of the major media houses. We're going to tell your side of the story. The full truth about the domestic betrayal, the infidelity, and the fact that your own sister is the other woman. Nigerian social media loves a good scandal, and they love justice even more. Won't that make things worse? It might. But staying silent while he controls the narrative will definitely make things worse. You need to reclaim your story, show the world who you really are, a mother fighting for her daughters against a man who valued gender over love. As Adana made calls and prepared their legal strategy, Chioma's phone rang. An unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Mrs. Okafor? A male voice, unfamiliar. My name is Bakar. Ms. E's hired me to investigate your husband. I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Okay, Chioma said, her heart racing. Your husband isn't just having an affair with your sister. He's been systematically moving money out of his business accounts for the past 6 months. I'm talking millions of naira. He's planning to claim bankruptcy during the divorce proceedings so he won't have to pay you anything. Chioma's head spun. Can he do that? If his lawyers are good enough, yes. But here's the thing. Some of that money is rightfully yours based on the prenup. He's essentially committing fraud. And there's something else. What? The baby your sister is carrying? I have evidence that Emeka has been seeing at least 3 other women over the past year. I can't confirm he's the father without a paternity test. The revelation hit Chioma like a tidal wave. The infidelity ran deeper than she'd imagined. This wasn't about love or even lust. This was about control, about Emeka's ego and his obsession with having a male heir. Send everything to Adana, Chioma said, her voice hollow. After hanging up, she shared the information with her attorney. Adana's expression shifted from anger to something more calculating. This changes everything, Adana said. If we can prove he's been unfaithful with multiple partners and that he's committing financial fraud, we don't just win the divorce. We destroy his reputation and his business. Are you ready for that level of war? Chioma thought of her daughters, of the message they'd internalize if she let Emeka win. She thought of all the women who'd been told they weren't enough because of their biology, of the sisters who'd been pitted against each other by men who saw them as vessels for their legacy rather than as human beings. I'm ready, she said. But as she left Adana's office, Chioma's phone buzzed one more time. A message from Ngozi. You can't win, sister. Emeka has friends in high places. By the time we're done, you won't even get supervised visitation with those girls. You should have just accepted your place. Chioma stared at the message, rage and determination warring within her. She was about to type a response when another message came through, this time from an unknown number. I have information about your husband that could change everything. Meet me at the cafe on Admiralty Way tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come alone. The cafe on Admiralty Way was bustling with the lunch crowd. Young professionals on their phones, businessmen negotiating deals, and couples sharing quiet moments. Chioma sat at a corner table, her sunglasses hiding eyes that hadn't seen much sleep. She'd spent the night lying awake, wondering who had sent the mysterious message and what information they could possibly have. At precisely 10 a.m., a woman in her mid-30s approached Chioma's table. She was elegantly dressed in a navy blue suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. There was something familiar about her face, but Chioma couldn't place it. Mrs. Okafor? I'm Kemi Adenuga. The woman sat down without waiting for an invitation. I worked, for your husband at Okafor Enterprises. Recognition dawned. Kemi had been Emeka's personal assistant for nearly 5 years. Chioma had met her at company events, always impressed by her professionalism and discretion. Why are you here? Chioma asked, keeping her voice low. Kemi glanced around nervously before sliding a manila envelope across the table. Because I'm tired of being complicit in his lies. And because I have daughters too. What he's doing to you, what he's doing to your girls, it's wrong. Chioma opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were printouts of emails, bank statements, and text messages. As she read, her hands began to shake with anger. The documents showed that Emeka had been planning this divorce for over a year. He'd consulted with multiple attorneys, strategizing how to minimize his financial obligations while maintaining his public image. There were emails discussing how to paint Chioma as an unfit mother, complete with false allegations of substance abuse and mental instability. But the most damning evidence was a series of text messages between Emeka and his current lawyer, outlining a plan to bribe a judge to ensure custody of the children went to him. Not because he wanted them, but to use them as leverage to force Chioma to accept a minimal settlement. He doesn't even want the girls, Kemi said quietly. I've heard him on the phone with his friends. He plans to send them to boarding school the moment he gets custody, just to punish you for not giving him sons. Chioma felt bile rise in her throat. The co-parenting conflict wasn't about what was best for the children. It was about power plays and revenge. Why would you give me this? Chioma asked. Won't this cost you your job? Kemi's laugh was bitter. I already quit. Yesterday. After he told me to forge documents that would make you look like you were stealing money from his business. I have 3 daughters of my own, Mrs. Okafor. I couldn't be part of this anymore. Did he try to stop you from leaving? He threatened me. Said he'd blacklist me in Lagos, make sure I never worked again. Kemi's voice hardened. But I have evidence of my own, years of watching him cheat, lie, and manipulate. If he comes after me, I'll bury him. Chioma studied the woman across from her with new respect. Thank you for this. You're risking everything. We women need to protect each other. Especially from men like Emeka who see us as disposable. Kemi stood to leave. There's one more thing. That baby your sister is carrying? Emeka told me he's not sure it's his. He's been pressuring her to get a paternity test, but she's refusing. I think she might be afraid of what it will show. After Kemi left, Chioma sat in the cafe, mind racing. She photographed every document with her phone and sent them to Adana, then called her immediately. Chi, this is explosive, Adana said after reviewing the files. If we can verify these documents are authentic, and I have no reason to doubt it given the source, we don't just have a case. We have a nuclear bomb. Attempting to bribe a judge? That's criminal. The Law Society will disbar his attorney, and Emeka could face serious legal consequences. Will it be enough to keep my daughters? More than enough. But Chi, you need to be prepared. When we release this information, it's going to get ugly. Emeka will fight back with everything he has. The African marriage drama playing out in public will intensify. Are you ready for that? Chioma thought of her daughters, especially Adiz, who'd started asking questions about why her father didn't love them enough. I'm ready. Good. I'm scheduling an emergency press conference for tomorrow. We're going to expose everything. The affair with your sister, the financial fraud, the attempted bribery. By the time we're done, Emeka Okafor's reputation will be in ruins. That evening, Chioma gathered her 4 daughters in the living room of their penthouse. They sat on the couch, youngest to oldest, looking at her with trusting eyes that broke her heart. Girls, I need to talk to you about what's happening with your father and me, Chioma began, sitting on the coffee table to be at their eye level. Is Daddy coming back? 6-year-old Chinello asked, her voice small. No, baby. Daddy and I are getting a divorce. That means we won't be married anymore, and we won't all live together. Is it because of us? Adiz asked, tears already forming. Because we're not boys? Chioma pulled her oldest daughter close. Listen to me, all of you. You are perfect exactly as you are. Being girls doesn't make you less valuable or less loved. What's happening between your father and me is about his choices, not about you. But Daddy said, Amara started. I know what Daddy said. And Daddy is wrong. Chioma's voice was firm. You are brilliant, beautiful, and capable of anything you want to achieve. Never let anyone make you feel like you're not enough because of your gender. Little Zainab, only 4 years old, climbed into Chioma's lap. Will we still see Daddy? The question pierced Chioma's heart. Despite everything, her daughters still loved their father. I don't know yet, sweetheart. But I promise you'll always have me, and I will always fight for you. After putting the girls to bed, Chioma stood at the window of the penthouse, looking out over the glittering lights of Lagos. Her phone buzzed with another message from Ngozi. I heard you're planning something. Don't be stupid. Emeka will crush you. You should just take whatever he offers and disappear quietly. That's what good women do. Chioma's hands clenched into fists. The audacity of her sister, the woman who'd betrayed her in the worst possible way, to lecture her about being a good woman. She typed back, good women stand up for themselves and their children. You'll learn that soon enough. Before she could second-guess herself, Chioma sent the message. Then she blocked Ngozi's number. Whatever relationship they'd once had was dead. Her sister had made her choice, and now Chioma was making hers. Her phone rang. Adana again. We have a problem. Emeka just filed an injunction trying to prevent tomorrow's press conference. He's claiming we're violating his privacy and attempting to defame him. Can he do that? He can try. I'm working on a counter-filing now. But this means he knows we have something big. Someone tipped him off. Chioma's blood ran cold. You think we have a leak? I think Kemi might have been followed when she met with you, or her communications might be monitored. We need to be more careful. As Chioma processed this, her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw 2 police officers. Mrs. Okafor, one of them said when she opened the door. We have a warrant to search the premises. There's been an allegation of stolen documents and financial fraud. Chioma's world tilted. Emeka was moving faster than they'd anticipated, using his connections to law enforcement to intimidate her. I want to see the warrant, she said, keeping her voice steady even as panic clawed at her throat. As the officers entered her home, waking her terrified daughters with their heavy footsteps and flashlights, Chioma realized this was no longer just a divorce. This was war. And Emeka had just escalated it beyond anything she'd imagined. The police search lasted 3 hours. Chioma stood in her living room, watching strangers rifle through her personal belongings while her daughters huddled together on the couch, eyes wide with fear. Adana had arrived within 20 minutes of Chioma's frantic phone call, immediately demanding to see the warrant and questioning the officer's authority. This is harassment, Adana stated coldly to the lead officer. You're executing a warrant based on false allegations from a man currently under investigation for financial fraud and attempting to bribe a judge. The officer, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, shifted uncomfortably. We're just following orders. The complaint was filed, and the warrant was issued. By which judge? Adana pulled out her phone, recording everything. I want names, badge numbers, and the exact statute you're citing for this invasion. By midnight, the officers left empty-handed. They'd found nothing because there was nothing to find. Chioma had committed no crime. But the damage was done. Her daughters were traumatized, and neighbors in the upscale building had witnessed the spectacle, their gossip already spreading. After the girls finally fell asleep, Chioma collapsed into a chair. He's trying to break me. I know, Adana said, pouring them both generous glasses of wine. This is classic emotional manipulation from a narcissist who's losing control. But we have him cornered. That warrant was obtained under false pretenses, likely through connections Emeka has with corrupt officials. We can use this. Use it how? He just had police invade my home in front of my children. And that will look terrible in court. A judge will see this for what it is, a powerful man abusing the legal system to terrorize his wife. Adana's eyes gleamed. Trust me. Every move Emeka makes in desperation just gives us more ammunition. Chioma's phone buzzed. A message from her mother. I heard what happened. I'm coming to Lagos tomorrow. We need to talk about Ngozi. The next morning, Chioma's mother, Patience Ndukwi, arrived at the penthouse looking older than her 63 years. The weight of having one daughter betray the other had carved new lines into her face. "Mama," Chioma embraced her mother, feeling some of her strength return in the familiar arms. "My daughter." Patience held her tight before pulling back to study Chioma's face. "You look terrible. When did you last sleep?" "I don't remember." They sat together while Adana prepared breakfast for the girls in the kitchen, giving mother and daughter privacy. "I need to tell you something about Ngozi," Patience began, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Something I should have told you years ago." Chioma waited, sensing this was important. "When Ngozi was in university, the one you paid for, she had an affair with a married professor. When his wife found out, there was a scandal. The professor lost his job. His marriage fell apart. Ngozi told me she felt no remorse. She said the wife was weak for not being able to keep her husband satisfied." The revelation hit Chioma hard. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I hoped she would change. I thought it was youthful foolishness." Patience's eyes filled with tears. "But I was wrong. Ngozi has always been jealous of you, your success, your beauty, your happy marriage. She wanted it all. When I heard about the affair with Emeka, I wasn't surprised. I was devastated, but not surprised." "Does she know you're here?" "I haven't spoken to her since I found out. She's tried to call, but I can't bear to hear her voice. She's my daughter, but what she did..." Patience shook her head. "It's unforgivable." The doorbell rang. Adana answered it, and moments later, a young man in a courier uniform handed her a package. She thanked him and brought it to the living room, her expression grave. "It's addressed to you, Chi from Emeka's legal team." Chioma opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a new custody proposal, but the terms were worse than before. Emeka was now demanding full custody with no visitation rights for Chioma. The document cited the police search as evidence of her criminal activities and unstable home environment. "They're using last night against me," Chioma whispered. "Of course they are," Adana said. "But we expected this. Remember, we have Kemi's documents. We have proof of his infidelity with multiple women. We have evidence of financial fraud and attempted bribery. This is all theater. He's trying to scare you into submission." Patience read the document, her face hardening with anger. "My granddaughters will not be raised by that man. I don't care what it takes." "Mrs. Ndukwi," Adana said carefully, "would you be willing to testify in court about Ngozi's history of pursuing married men? It establishes a pattern that could help our case." "I'll do whatever it takes to protect my granddaughters and my daughter," Patience said firmly. That afternoon, Chioma received an unexpected visitor, Pastor Olyamide from their church. The elderly pastor had married her and Emeka 10 years ago and had counseled them through various marital challenges over the years. "Sister Chioma," he said, settling into a chair with a heavy sigh. "I've heard what's happening. Emeka came to see me yesterday." Chioma felt a flicker of hope. "Did he express any remorse?" "Quite the opposite. He wanted me to testify that you were a bad wife who neglected your duties and drove him to seek comfort elsewhere." Pastor Olyamide's expression was sad but resolute. "I told him I would do no such thing. In fact, I told him exactly what I thought of a man who would abandon his daughters over their gender and commit adultery with his wife's sister." "How did he react?" "He threatened to withdraw his financial support from the church. We've been building a new sanctuary, and Emeka has been our largest donor." The pastor smiled gently. "I told him to keep his money. Some things are more important than buildings." Chioma felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you, Pastor. I want to testify on your behalf," he said. "I've counseled you both for years. I know the truth about your marriage, about how Emeka controlled you and made you feel worthless for not having sons. That's not God's way, and I won't let him use religion to justify his cruelty. After the pastor left, Adana updated Chioma on the press conference situation. The injunction was denied. We're holding the conference tomorrow at the Eco Hotel. Every major media outlet in Lagos will be there. I'm terrified, Chioma admitted. That's normal. But Chi, this is your chance to take control of the narrative. Emeka has been writing your story for years, making you the villain. Tomorrow, you tell the truth. That night, as Chioma prepared for bed, her phone rang. An unknown number again. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Chioma. The voice was female, cultured, unfamiliar. My name is Dr. Folake Martins. I'm a gynecologist here in Lagos. I treated your sister Ngozi 2 months ago. Chioma's heart raced. Why are you calling me? Because I believe in doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. Ngozi came to me for prenatal care. During the examination, I discovered something concerning, evidence that she'd been taking fertility drugs without proper medical supervision. Very high doses. I don't understand. What does that mean? It means the pregnancy might not have been as natural as she's claimed. Fertility drugs can be used to manipulate conception timing, and in high doses, they can be dangerous. But there's something else. Dr. Martins paused. I ran standard tests, and the estimated conception date doesn't match the timeline Ngozi gave me. She said she conceived 3 months ago, but the fetus is measuring closer to 4.5 months. Chioma's mind reeled. So she was pregnant before. Before she claims the affair started, yes. Which means either she's lying about when the affair began, or the baby might not be your husband's at all. Why are you telling me this? Because medical ethics are important to me, and so is the truth. I saw your story on social media. I know what you're going through. And I think you deserve to know that your sister has been lying about more than just the affair. After the doctor hung up, Chioma sat in darkness, processing this new information. If Ngozi's baby wasn't Emeka's, the entire foundation of his divorce case crumbled. He was leaving his family for a son that might not even be his. She called Adana immediately, sharing the revelation. This is exactly what we needed, Adana said, excitement clear in her voice. If we can prove Ngozi was already pregnant when she seduced Emeka, it shows premeditation. She targeted him specifically because she needed someone to claim the child. This isn't just an affair, it's entrapment. Can we force a paternity test? Not until after the baby is born. But we can certainly introduce the doctor's findings in court. It will cast serious doubt on everything Emeka and Ngozi have claimed. As Chioma finally tried to sleep, her phone buzzed one last time. A message from Emeka. You think you're so smart with your lawyers and your little games. But I own this city, Chioma. I own the judges, the police, the media. By the time I'm done with you, you'll have nothing. Not the girls, not your business, not even your dignity. Last chance to settle quietly. Chioma stared at the message, feeling something shift deep inside her. The fear that had been controlling her since that night she'd walked in on his betrayal began to transform into something harder, colder. She took a screenshot of the message, evidence of his intimidation tactics, and sent it to Adana. Then she typed a response, "See you at the press conference tomorrow." But as she finally drifted into uneasy sleep, Chioma didn't know that across town, Ngozi was having a very different conversation with Emeka. One that would change everything they thought they knew about this domestic betrayal. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What do you think about the paternity revelation? Comment below. The press conference room at the Eco Hotel buzzed with anticipation. Journalists from major Nigerian outlets crowded the space. Representatives from channels TV, The Punch, Vanguard, and even international correspondents who'd caught wind of the scandal. Cameras were positioned at multiple angles, ready to broadcast what promised to be one of Lagos's most explosive domestic drama revelations. Chioma sat at the table beside Adana, her hands folded to hide their trembling. She wore a simple navy dress, minimal makeup, projecting an image of dignity and strength even as her stomach churned with anxiety. Behind her sat Pastor Olyamide and her mother, present as moral support and witnesses to the truth. Adana stood and approached the microphone cluster, her presence commanding immediate silence. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I'm Adana Ease, legal counsel for Mrs. Chioma Okafor. We've called this press conference to address the malicious false allegations that have been circulating about my client and to reveal the truth about her marriage to businessman Emeka Okafor. The room erupted with the clicking of camera shutters. Adana waited for silence before continuing. For 8 years, Chioma Okafor has been a devoted wife and mother. She gave birth to 4 beautiful, intelligent daughters. But instead of celebrating these children, her husband systematically made her feel inadequate because she didn't produce a male heir. This outdated sexist mentality culminated 2 weeks ago when Mrs. Okafor walked into her bedroom and found her husband in bed with her own sister, Ngozi Ndukwi. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Journalists began scribbling furiously in notepads. But the infidelity goes much deeper, Adana continued, her voice steady and clear. We have evidence that Emeka Okafor has been conducting affairs with at least 4 different women over the past 18 months. We have emails, text messages, and testimony from witnesses. She nodded to her assistant, who began distributing packets to the journalists, carefully redacted versions of the evidence Kemi had provided, protecting identities but showing the scope of Emeka's betrayal. Furthermore, Adana said, her voice hardening, Mr. Okafor has been systematically moving money out of his business accounts in an attempt to hide marital assets and defraud my client of her rightful share in the divorce proceedings. We're talking about millions of naira in fraudulent transfers. The room exploded with questions, but Adana raised her hand for silence. Most disturbingly, we have evidence that Mr. Okafor and his legal counsel attempted to bribe a judge to ensure he would receive full custody of the children. Not because he wants to be their father, but as leverage to force Mrs. Okafor into accepting an unfair settlement. In fact, we have documentation showing that he plans to send these girls to boarding school immediately upon gaining custody, purely to punish their mother. A female journalist from Channels TV stood. Mrs. Ease, these are serious allegations. Do you have concrete proof? We have emails, bank statements, text messages, and testimony from former employees, all of which will be submitted to the appropriate authorities. We're not just fighting a divorce case, we're exposing criminal fraud and corruption. Another journalist called out, what about the allegations that Mrs. Okafor is an unfit mother? The police search of her home. Adana's smile was sharp. That search was based on completely fabricated allegations filed by Mr. Okafor. The police found nothing because there was nothing to find. It was simply another attempt at intimidation and emotional manipulation. We're filing complaints against the officers who participated in that unlawful search. Finally, it was Chioma's turn to speak. She stood and approached the microphone, her voice soft but clear. My name is Chioma Okafor, and I am the mother of 4 remarkable daughters. I want to speak directly to every woman watching this, especially mothers who've been told they're not enough because of the children they bore. She paused, gathering her courage as cameras focused on her face. I did everything I was supposed to do. I was a good wife. I supported my husband's career. I raised our daughters with love and care. But it was never enough because I couldn't control the biology of conception. I couldn't give him the son he wanted, and for that, he made me feel like a failure every single day. Emotion cracked her voice, but she pushed forward. When I discovered my husband's affair with my own sister, it wasn't just the betrayal of a spouse. It was the betrayal of family, of trust, of everything I believed about the people I loved. My sister told me she was pregnant with Emeka's son, and that's why he chose her over me and our daughters. Chioma pulled out a document and held it up. But I recently learned something interesting. Medical records suggest that my sister was already pregnant before their affair allegedly began. The timeline doesn't match, which means my husband may be destroying his family for a child that isn't even his. The room erupted in chaos. Journalists shouted questions, cameras flashed, and Chioma could see phones being pulled out to tweet this revelation in real time. "I'm sharing this not for revenge," Chioma said, her voice rising above the noise, "but because the truth matters. Because my daughters deserve to know that their worth isn't determined by their gender. Because women need to stop accepting the narrative that we're only valuable if we produce male heirs." As Chioma finished speaking, the doors to the conference room burst open. Emeka Okafor strode in, flanked by 2 attorneys and a security detail. He looked furious, his face flushed with rage. "This is slander," he shouted, pointing at Chioma. "You're lying about everything. I'm suing you, your lawyer, and every media outlet that publishes these lies." Adana stepped forward, positioning herself between Emeka and Chioma. "Mr. Okafor, you're interrupting a legally sanctioned press conference. I suggest you leave before I have security remove you. I have every right to defend myself against these false accusations." Emeka's eyes locked on Chioma, filled with contempt. "You were a terrible wife, a neglectful mother. Everyone knows it. This is just a desperate attempt to extort money from me." "Then you won't mind if we release the full documentation," Adana said calmly. "Every email, every bank transfer, every text message showing your affairs and your fraud." For a moment, Emeka's confidence faltered. One of his attorneys leaned in, whispering urgently in his ear. "Where's Ngozi?" Chioma asked suddenly, finding her voice. "Where's the woman you chose over your family? Why isn't she here supporting you?" Emeka's jaw tightened. "That's none of your business." "It's very much my business when you're claiming her child as your son. When you're destroying our daughters' lives for a baby that might not even be yours. How dare you question? How dare you?" Chioma's voice rang out, surprising everyone including herself. "How dare you make our daughters feel worthless because of their gender? How dare you betray me with my own sister? How dare you use your money and power to try to destroy me when all I ever did was love you?" The journalists captured every moment, the confrontation between husband and wife playing out in real time for all of Lagos to witness. "You want a war, Chioma," Emeka said, his voice dangerously low. "You'll get one. And when I'm finished, you won't even be able to afford to feed those girls. I'll make sure you lose everything. You can take my money, my house, everything material," Chioma said, tears streaming down her face but her voice unwavering. "But you can't take my children. And you can't take away the truth." Emeka turned to leave, but one of the journalists called out, "Mr. Okafor, is it true you attempted to bribe Judge Adele Eek to ensure custody went in your favor?" He spun around, face pale. "That's a lie. I never." "We have emails," Adana said quietly. "Time-stamped, authenticated emails between you and your attorney discussing the exact amount you were willing to pay to ensure the desired outcome. Would you like me to release them now, or would you prefer to leave quietly?" For the first time since entering the room, Emeka looked genuinely afraid. His attorneys huddled around him, one of them clearly arguing for immediate departure. "This isn't over," Emeka finally said, backing toward the door. "Not by a long shot." As he left, the room erupted with questions. Adana fielded them expertly while Chioma sat down, her entire body shaking with adrenaline. Her mother squeezed her shoulder supportively. The press conference continued for another 30 minutes before Adana finally called it to a close. As they prepared to leave, Chioma's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Chioma. It's Kemi. The former assistant's voice was urgent, panicked. You need to listen to me carefully. I just got a call from someone at Emeka's office. He's planning something big. He's meeting with some dangerous people tonight, the kind who don't ask questions, just follow orders. Chioma's blood ran cold. What kind of people? The kind who make problems disappear. Chi, I think you're in danger. Real danger. He's not just trying to ruin you legally anymore. He wants you gone. As Chioma processed this terrifying revelation, she noticed a black SUV idling across the street from the hotel entrance, its windows tinted dark, engine running. A man sat behind the wheel, his eyes fixed on the hotel doors. Watching. Waiting. Adana immediately called hotel security when Chioma pointed out the suspicious SUV. Within minutes, security personnel approached the vehicle, but it sped away before they could get close enough to identify the driver or license plate. The incident left everyone on edge. You're not going home tonight, Adana said firmly, steering Chioma toward her own car. You and the girls are staying at my house until we figure out what Emeka is planning. Chioma's mother had already rushed back to the penthouse to pack bags for the girls and bring them to Adana's gated estate in Ikoyi. The level of security there, guards, cameras, high walls, would provide protection that Chioma's building couldn't match. As they drove through Lagos traffic, Chioma's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The press conference had gone viral. #Chioma Okafor was trending on Twitter Nigeria, with thousands of people weighing in on the domestic betrayal. Most comments were supportive, women sharing their own stories of being made to feel inadequate for not producing male children. But there were also cruel messages, people calling her a liar and a gold digger, clearly influenced by Emeka's wealth and status. Don't read the comments, Adana advised, glancing at Chioma's phone. Social media is a battlefield, and not everyone will believe the truth. I know. But look at this one. Chioma showed her a tweet from a prominent women's rights activist. Chioma Okafor is speaking for millions of Nigerian women who've been reduced to baby-making machines. This is bigger than one marriage. This is about our entire culture's obsession with male children. #End gender preference. The tweet had been shared thousands of times, sparking a national conversation about gender discrimination and the value placed on sons over daughters in African society. At Adana's house, Chioma's daughters were already settled in the spacious guest wing, watching cartoons while patients prepared dinner. Seeing her girls safe brought tears of relief to Chioma's eyes. "Mama, why did Daddy look so angry on TV?" Amara asked as Chioma hugged her. The press conference had been broadcast live, and despite their best efforts to shield the girls, 10-year-old Amara had seen clips on her tablet. Because sometimes when people do wrong things, they get angry when they're caught, Chioma explained carefully. But you don't need to worry about that. You just need to know that I love you, and I'm keeping you safe. That evening, as the girls slept, Adana and Chioma sat in the study reviewing their legal strategy. Tund Bakar, the private investigator, joined them via video call with an urgent update. "I've been following Emeka's movements since the press conference," Tund said, his face serious on the screen. 2 hours ago, he met with a man named Chidi Okonkwo at a bar in Surulere. You need to understand who Chidi is. He's a fixer, someone the wealthy elite use when they need dirty work done. "What kind of dirty work?" Chioma asked, though she feared she already knew. "Everything from intimidation to violence. He's been linked to several cases where evidence mysteriously disappeared, witnesses suddenly recanted their testimony, and people who were causing problems for powerful men ended up hospitalized or worse." Adana's expression hardened. "Did you get photos of the meeting?" "Better. I got audio." Tund played a recording. The quality was rough, background noise from the bar making some words unclear, But Emeka's voice came through distinctly. I need her scared enough to drop everything. I don't care how you do it. Just make it happen. And if anything happens to those documents her lawyer has, there's a bonus in it for you. Chioma felt sick. This was no longer just a bitter divorce. This had escalated to physical threats and potential violence. We need to go to the police, Chioma said. With what proof? Adana asked gently. This audio is good, but without clear threats of specific violence, the police won't act, especially if Emeka has friends in the department, which he likely does. So what do we do? Just wait for him to actually hurt someone? No. We move faster than he can. Tomorrow, we're filing for an emergency protective order. We're submitting all of this evidence to the Attorney General's office, not local police. And we're going public with the threats. Tund cleared his throat. There's more. I've been digging into Ngozi's background, and I found something interesting. 6 months ago, she took out a large personal loan, 200,000 naira, from a private lender. She used it to pay for fertility treatments at a clinic in Abuja. So she was planning to get pregnant before the affair started, Chioma said, the pieces clicking together. She targeted Emeka specifically. It appears so. And here's the kicker. I found her bank statements. The day after she told Emeka she was pregnant, he transferred 500,000 naira into her account. She's been receiving monthly payments from him since then. Adana leaned forward. He's essentially paying her to claim the baby is his. This isn't a love affair, it's a transaction. As they absorbed this information, Chioma's phone rang. Her mother's number. Chi, turn on NTA News. Now. Chioma grabbed the remote and switched on the television. A breaking news banner scrolled across the bottom. Ngozi Ndukwi, sister of Chioma Okafor, speaks out about affair scandal. Ngozi appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like an expensive hotel suite, dressed immaculately in white, a calculated choice to appear innocent and pure. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tissues in hand, playing the victim perfectly. I want to apologize to my sister, Ngozi said, her voice breaking with what seemed like genuine emotion. I never meant to hurt her. But what the media isn't telling you is that Chioma's marriage was already over. Emeka came to me, broken and lonely, after years of being rejected by a wife who cared more about her business than her family. That's a lie. Chioma shouted at the screen. The interviewer, a young woman from NTA, asked softly, Are you saying Mrs. Okafor neglected her husband and children? I'm saying that Emeka was desperate for affection, for someone to make him feel valued as a man. Chioma became cold after failing to give him a son. She blamed him for her inadequacy. When he found comfort in my arms, it wasn't calculated, it was two people finding solace in shared pain. The manipulation was masterful. Ngozi was rewriting the narrative, painting herself as the compassionate sister who helped a suffering man, and Chioma as the cold, ambitious wife who drove her husband away. As for the baby, Ngozi continued, placing a protective hand on her visible belly. Yes, I'm pregnant with Emeka's son. We've done paternity testing already. It's his child. And I'm prepared to raise this boy with the love and dedication he deserves, unlike the 4 daughters who Chioma treats as burdens rather than blessings. How dare she? Patience exclaimed from the doorway. How dare she say you don't love your daughters? But Chioma barely heard her mother. She was focused on what Ngozi had just claimed. We've done paternity testing already. That's impossible, Adana said immediately. Non-invasive prenatal paternity testing isn't widely available in Nigeria, and it's expensive. Plus, Dr. Martin said Ngozi refused testing. She's lying, Tund confirmed. I would have known if they'd done any official paternity test. This is a bluff to counter your press conference claims. The interview continued with Ngozi painting herself as a victim of her sister's jealousy and vindictiveness. She claimed that Chioma had always been envious of her beauty and youth, that the press conference was nothing but slander designed to destroy an innocent woman's reputation. Emeka and I are planning to marry as soon as his divorce is finalized, Ngozi concluded. We want to build a family together, a real family, with the son he's always dreamed of. I just hope that one day, Chioma can find peace and stop using her daughters as pawns in her revenge scheme. The interview ended, and Chioma sat in stunned silence. The public disgrace she'd felt after discovering the affair was nothing compared to this. Watching her own sister twist reality on national television, poisoning public opinion against her. She's good, Adana admitted grimly. This is sophisticated character assassination. She's preemptively countering everything we revealed at the press conference. Chioma's phone exploded with messages. Some supportive, but many now questioning her version of events. Ngozi's performance had been convincing enough to sway public opinion. A text from an unknown number appeared. Your sister just destroyed you on national TV. Still think you can win? Drop the case, or things get much worse. That's Emeka, Chioma said, showing the message to Adana. Or someone working for him. Before Adana could respond, Tun's voice came urgently from the laptop speaker. Turn to channel 203. Right now. They switched channels to find another breaking news segment. This time, it was footage of Chioma's fashion boutique in Victoria Island. Her pride and joy, the business she'd built from nothing over 8 years. The building was engulfed in flames. Fire trucks surrounded the structure, but it was clear from the intensity of the blaze that nothing inside would survive. Years of inventory, designs, client records, everything was being consumed by the fire. No, Chioma whispered, rising from her chair as if to somehow reach through the television and save her life's work. No, no, no. The news anchor reported. Authorities say the fire at Chioma's boutique appears to have started from electrical issues, though investigations are ongoing. The building was empty at the time, so thankfully no injuries have been reported. However, the financial loss is estimated to be substantial. Electrical issues, Adana repeated flatly. That's convenient timing, right after you humiliated Emeka at the press conference. He did this, Chioma said, her voice hollow with shock. He burned down my business. We can't prove it, Tun said carefully. But yes, almost certainly. This is how men like Emeka operate. They destroy everything you've built to remind you that they're in control. Chioma sank back into her chair, overwhelmed. In one day, she'd gone from feeling empowered by speaking her truth to watching her sister dismantle her credibility and her business literally go up in flames. Listen to me, Adana said, gripping her shoulders. This is what he wants, for you to break, to give up. But we're not going to let that happen. Your business can be rebuilt. Your reputation can be restored. But if you give up now, he wins everything, including your daughters. Patience entered the room with determination etched on her face. I'm going on television tomorrow. I'm telling everyone what kind of person Ngozi really is, what she's done in the past. She wants to play dirty? Fine. I'll show her dirty. As the women strategized late into the night, none of them noticed the news ticker running across the bottom of the screen. Judge Adele Eek, presiding over Okafor custody case, announces unexpected retirement effective immediately. New judge to be assigned. The judge Emeka had allegedly tried to bribe was removing himself from the case. Whether it was due to fear of exposure or because Emeka had succeeded in compromising him, the result was the same. They were getting a new judge, an unknown variable in a case that was becoming increasingly dangerous. And somewhere across Lagos, in a luxury apartment overlooking the lagoon, Emeka and Ngozi celebrated their small victories, unaware that the evidence against them was about to get much, much worse. The smell of smoke clung to Chioma's clothes even though she'd been nowhere near her boutique when it burned. She'd driven there at dawn, needing to see the devastation with her own eyes. The building stood as a charred skeleton, windows blown out, her dreams reduced to ash and twisted metal. Fire investigators crawled over the ruins, taking samples and photographs. One of them, a weary-looking man in his 50s, approached Chioma where she stood behind the police tape. Mrs. Okafor? I'm Chief Fire Investigator Ademola. I'm very sorry for your loss. Was it really electrical? Chioma asked, though she already knew the answer. Ademola glanced around, ensuring no one was within earshot. Off the record. This was arson. Professional work. We found accelerant residue in 3 different locations. Someone wanted to make sure this building burned completely. But officially, until we finish our investigation, we're calling it accidental. Why won't you say it was arson now? Because the person who did this has connections. My captain has already received 2 calls this morning asking us to expedite the investigation and rule it accidental. Political pressure. He handed her a card. Call me in a week. By then, I'll have gathered enough evidence that they can't sweep this under the rug, even with pressure. As Chioma drove back to Adana's estate, she felt numb. The co-parenting conflict had evolved into economic warfare, with Emeka systematically dismantling everything she'd built. First her marriage, then her reputation, now her livelihood. But when she arrived at the house, Adana met her with news that cut through the numbness. Patience is at the NTA studio right now, Adana said. She insisted on going this morning. She's giving an interview to counter Ngozi's lies. They turned on the television to find Chioma's mother sitting across from the same interviewer who'd spoken with Ngozi. But Patience looked nothing like the crying, manipulative figure her younger daughter had presented. She sat straight-backed, eyes fierce with maternal protection. "Thank you for having me," Patience began. "I need to set the record straight about my daughter Ngozi and the lies she told on this very program yesterday." "Mrs. Ndukwi, those are strong words against your own daughter." "They're necessary words. Ngozi has a history of pursuing married men. This isn't her first affair, just her most publicized. When she was in university, she destroyed a professor's marriage, showed no remorse, and told me the wife was weak for not keeping her husband satisfied. I should have spoken up then. I should have stopped her pattern of behavior." The interviewer leaned forward, sensing a story. "Why didn't you?" "Because I loved her. Because I hoped she would change. But when I learned she'd seduced her own sister's husband, the man who was married to Chioma, who paid for Ngozi's education, who treated her like family, I realized my silence had enabled a monster." "That's harsh language for your own child." "It's accurate language for someone who betrayed her sister in the worst way imaginable. Ngozi didn't fall in love with Emeka Okafor. She targeted him deliberately because she was pregnant and needed someone to claim the child." The studio went silent. Even the interviewer seemed shocked. "You're saying the baby isn't Mr. Okafor's?" "I'm saying my daughter was already pregnant when she seduced him. I'm saying she's been taking his money, 500,000 naira initially, monthly payments since, to play along with this charade. I'm saying this entire affair is a calculated scheme to trap a wealthy man into supporting a child that may not even be his." Patience pulled out documents, bank statements showing Ngozi's transactions, clinic records from her fertility treatments, timeline calculations that didn't match her claimed conception date. "Where did you get these?" the interviewer asked. "From Ngozi's apartment. She gave me a key months ago, never thinking I'd use it to expose her lies. But after watching her destroy my daughter Chioma on television, painting herself as a victim when she's actually a predator, I couldn't stay silent anymore." Chioma watched, torn between gratitude for her mother's defense and concern about the fallout. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was a mother choosing between her children, publicly denouncing one to save the other. The interview continued with Patience detailing every manipulation, every lie, every calculated move Ngozi had made. By the end, the interviewer looked visibly shaken. "Mrs. Ndukwi, you understand that by sharing this, you're essentially cutting ties with Ngozi?" Patience's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "I already lost one daughter to greed and jealousy. I won't lose another daughter and 4 granddaughters to lies. Ngozi made her choice. Now I'm making mine." As the interview concluded, Chioma's phone exploded. This interview was going even more viral than Ngozi's had. Public opinion was swinging back, people praising Patience's bravery and condemning Ngozi's manipulation. But the victory felt hollow when Chioma's phone rang with an unknown number. "Mrs. Okafor, this is Dr. Martins again. I'm at the hospital. Your sister Ngozi was just admitted. She's claiming she fell downstairs and is having complications with her pregnancy. But the bruising pattern suggests something else." "What do you mean?" "I think someone hit her. And given the timing, right after your mother's interview, I have concerns about who might have done it." Chioma's blood ran cold. "Emeka, I can't prove anything, and Ngozi isn't talking. But I thought you should know. Whatever is happening between these people, it's escalating beyond just legal battles." After hanging up, Chioma shared the news with Adana. The lawyer's expression grew grim. "This is a pattern with men like Emeka. When they lose control of the narrative, they resort to violence. If he's willing to hurt Ngozi, a woman carrying what he believes is his child, imagine what he might do to you." "Should I go to the hospital?" "Absolutely not. That's exactly what he'd want. You showing up so he can paint you as harassing his pregnant girlfriend or claim you caused the accident. We stay away and we document everything." But Patience had no such restraint. She arrived home an hour later, shaking with rage. "I went to see Ngozi," she said. "I needed to see her with my own eyes. Emeka was there, acting the concerned partner. But I saw the fear in Ngozi's eyes when he touched her. Whatever happened, he did it." "Did she say anything to you?" Chioma asked. "She told me to leave. Called me a traitor and said she never wanted to see me again. But when Emeka left the room to speak with doctors, she grabbed my hand and whispered, 'I'm trapped, Mama. Help me.'" The revelation hung in the air. Ngozi, the architect of so much pain and betrayal, was now a victim herself, caught in the same emotional manipulation and potential violence that Emeka wielded like weapons. "We can help her," Chioma said quietly, "if she's willing to tell the truth. After everything she's done to you?" Patience looked at her daughter with wonder. "I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it because no woman deserves to be beaten, even one who betrayed me. And because if she testifies against Emeka, if she admits the truth about the baby and the money, we can end this once and for all." Adana was already making plans. "I'll reach out through back channels. If Ngozi wants protection and a way out, we can offer it in exchange for testimony. But Chi, you understand this doesn't excuse what she did." "I understand. But revenge isn't as important to me as protecting my daughters and making sure Emeka can never hurt another woman." That evening, Chioma received an encrypted message on a messaging app. "This is Ngozi. I can't talk on the phone. He monitors everything. You were right about him. About all of it. I'm sorry. I'll testify, but I need help getting away from him first. The baby isn't his. I got pregnant by someone else, panicked, and he seemed like the perfect solution. I never thought he'd be violent. Please help me." Chioma showed the message to Adana and Tund, who immediately began coordinating a plan to extract Ngozi from the hospital safely. They needed her testimony, but more than that, despite everything, Chioma couldn't stand by and let her sister be abused. "Why are you helping her?" Adiz asked from the doorway, having overheard the conversation. At 12, she understood more than Chioma wanted her to. "Because doing the right thing isn't always easy or fair," Chioma explained. "Your aunt hurt me terribly. But that doesn't mean I want her to get hurt too. We're better than the people who've wronged us, and we prove that by how we act, not by how they acted toward us." Adiz considered this, then nodded. "Okay. But I'm still mad at her." "You're allowed to be mad. I'm mad too. But we're going to help her anyway." Late that night, using Tun's security contacts and Adana's legal maneuvering, they executed the extraction. Ngozi was moved from her hospital room to a private medical facility under a false name, with security guards posted outside her door. Emeka, who'd left the hospital earlier, didn't discover she was missing until morning. When he did, his rage was nuclear. He called Chioma directly, screaming threats. You think you can steal her from me? I'll destroy you. I'll make sure you never see your daughters again. I'm recording this, Chioma said calmly. Every threat you make is more evidence against you. And Emeka. Ngozi's going to tell the court everything. The money, the lies, the violence, all of it. The line went dead. Within hours, Emeka's lawyers filed an emergency motion claiming Chioma had kidnapped a pregnant woman. The accusation was absurd, but it showed how desperate he'd become. Adana countered with their own filing, including Ngozi's willingness to testify and medical records showing evidence of abuse. They also submitted the recording of Emeka's threatening phone call. The judge assigned to their case, a stern woman named Justice Obayomanwosu, known for her no-nonsense approach to family law, scheduled an emergency hearing for the following day. As Chioma tried to sleep that night, her phone buzzed with a message from Tund. Found something big. Emeka's been investigated before. 3 years ago, a woman filed a domestic violence complaint against him. It was buried, paid off. But I have copies of the police report and medical records. He broke her arm. So there was a pattern. Emeka Okafor wasn't just a cheating spouse caught in an infidelity scandal. He was a violent man who'd been using his money and power to escape consequences for years. And tomorrow in court, all of his secrets would finally come to light. Will Ngozi actually testify? What will the judge decide? Comment your predictions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Justice Obayomanwosu's courtroom was packed. The custody hearing had become the most anticipated legal proceeding in Lagos, drawing media attention from across Nigeria and even international outlets. This wasn't just about one couple's divorce anymore. It had become a symbol of larger struggles against domestic betrayal, gender discrimination, and the abuse of power. Chioma sat at the plaintiff's table beside Adana, wearing a simple black suit that projected competence and dignity. Across the aisle, Emeka sat with his legal team, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. His eyes kept darting to the witness room when Ngozi waited, guarded by court security. Justice Nwosu entered, and the courtroom rose. She was a formidable woman in her late 50s, her gray-streaked hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. This is an emergency hearing regarding custody of 4 minor children in the divorce proceedings of Okafor versus Okafor, she began. I've reviewed the filings from both parties, and I must say, this is one of the most disturbing cases I've encountered. We will hear testimony today, and I will make a ruling on temporary custody arrangements. Mr. Okafor's counsel, you may begin. Emeka's lead attorney, a slick Lagos lawyer named Barrister Adaloja, stood. Your Honor, my client is a respected businessman who simply wants custody of his children. Mrs. Okafor has engaged in a campaign of defamation, has consorted with criminals to kidnap a pregnant woman, and has demonstrated erratic, unstable behavior. Counsel, Justice Nwosu interrupted, her voice sharp. I've read your filings. They're long on accusations and short on evidence. Do you have any witnesses? We do, Your Honor. We call Mr. Emeka Okafor to the stand. Emeka took the stand, swearing to tell the truth. Under his attorney's gentle questioning, he painted himself as a devoted father driven to divorce by a cold, ambitious wife who neglected their children. I love my daughters, he said, looking directly at the judge. But their mother cares more about her business and her revenge than their well-being. She's turned them against me, poisoned them with lies. Mr. Okafor, Justice Nwosu interrupted. Did you or did you not have an extramarital affair with your wife's sister? Emeka's confidence faltered. That's complicated, Your Honor. It's a yes or no question. Yes, but did you tell your wife she was inadequate because she gave birth to daughters instead of sons? I never said inadequate. I simply expressed my desire for a son. Yes, I read that part. Justice Nwosu's expression was cold. Did you transfer marital assets to hidden accounts to avoid equitable distribution in the divorce? Barrister Adaloja jumped up. Your Honor, these questions are outside the scope of. This is my courtroom, counsel, and I'll ask what I deem relevant. Mr. Okafor, answer the question. Emeka's jaw tightened. I moved some money for business purposes. Millions of naira? Without your wife's knowledge. Justice Nwosu flipped through documents. I have bank statements here showing systematic transfers to offshore accounts. That's not business, Mr. Okafor. That's fraud. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Justice Nwosu slammed her gavel. One more outburst and I'll clear this room. Adana stood for cross-examination. Mr. Okafor, how many women have you had affairs with during your marriage? I don't see how. Answer the question. 1. Just Ngozi. Adana smiled. You're under oath, Mr. Okafor. Let me rephrase. How many women have you had sexual relationships with besides your wife during your marriage? Emeka's face reddened. I refuse to answer on the grounds that this isn't a criminal trial, Justice Nwosu said. Answer the question or I'll hold you in contempt. 4. Emeka finally admitted. Maybe 5. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Chioma felt vindicated but also sad. This public disgrace was necessary, but it was still painful. And did you pay Ngozi Ndukwi 500,000 naira when she told you she was pregnant? Adana continued. That was a gift. A gift, or payment to ensure she claimed the child was yours. Objection. Barrister Adaloja shouted. Overruled. Mr. Okafor, answer. Emeka's hands gripped the witness stand. I wanted to support her. Did you know she was already pregnant when your affair began? That's a lie. Is it? Adana pulled out documents. Your Honor, I'd like to submit medical records showing that Ngozi Ndukwi was approximately 4.5 months pregnant when she claimed to be 3 months along. The timeline makes it impossible for Mr. Okafor to be the father based on when their affair allegedly started. The courtroom erupted. Justice Nwosu pounded her gavel repeatedly. Order. I will have order. Emeka's face had gone pale. That's, she told me. We're doing a paternity test. A paternity test you've conveniently delayed scheduling, Adana said. Because you suspect the truth, don't you? That this entire affair was a setup, and the son you're destroying your family for isn't even yours. Your Honor, I request a recess, Barrister Adaloja said desperately. Denied. We're going to finish this today. Justice Nwosu turned to Adana. Counsel, call your next witness. We call Ngozi Ndukwi. The courtroom fell silent as Ngozi entered, her arm in a cast, bruises visible on her face and neck. She looked nothing like the confident woman who'd given her television interview. She looked terrified and broken. She took the stand, her voice barely audible as she swore her oath. Adana approached gently. Miss Ndukwi, who is the father of your baby? Ngozi glanced at Emeka, fear clear in her eyes. I don't know for certain. But it's not Emeka Okafor, is it? Tears streamed down Ngozi's face. No. I was already pregnant when I seduced him. The father is a man I dated briefly. He didn't want the baby, so I panicked. Emeka seemed perfect, wealthy, desperate for a son. I thought. You thought you could trap him into claiming the child? Yes. Ngozi's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Chioma. I'm sorry for everything. The affair, the lies, destroying your marriage. I was jealous and greedy, and I made terrible choices. Did Mr. Okafor give you money to claim the baby was his? Yes. 500,000 initially, then 200,000 every month. He said as long as I played along, as long as I gave him his son, he'd take care of me. And when your mother exposed the truth on television, what happened? Ngozi's hand went to her cast. Emeka came to my hospital room. He was furious. He grabbed me, shook me, threw me against the wall. He said I'd ruined everything, that I was worthless, that he'd make sure I paid for embarrassing him. He assaulted you? Yes. He broke my arm and threatened to kill me if I told anyone the truth about the baby. Emeka exploded from his seat. She's lying. Your Honor, she's been coached. Mr. Okafor, sit down. Justice Nwosu's voice cracked like a whip. One more outburst and you'll be removed. Adana continued. Miss Ndukwi, do you have any other evidence of Mr. Okafor's violence? He showed me photos once. Of another woman he'd hurt years ago. He said it was a warning, that if I ever crossed him, I'd end up worse than her. Adana submitted medical records, the police report Tund had found, and photographs of Ngozi's injuries. The evidence was overwhelming. Finally, Adana called Chioma to the stand. Under questioning, Chioma spoke calmly about her marriage, the emotional manipulation, the years of being made to feel worthless for not producing a son. Mrs. Okafor, why do you want custody of your daughters? Adana asked. Because they're my life, Chioma said simply. Because they deserve to grow up knowing their worth isn't determined by their gender. Because I love them more than anything in this world, and I will protect them from anyone who tries to make them feel like they're not enough, even if that person is their father. And if Mr. Okafor wants to be part of their lives, then he needs to show them he values them as they are, not as symbols of his failed expectations. They're not pawns in a power play. They're human beings who deserve love and respect. When it was Barrister Adelodge's turn to cross-examine, he had nothing. Every question he asked only reinforced Chioma's credibility and Emeka's cruelty. Justice Nwosu called a 30-minute recess to review the evidence. When she returned, her expression was granite. I've presided over family court for 23 years, she began. I've seen contentious divorces, bitter custody battles, and all manner of human failing. But this case represents something particularly insidious: the systematic abuse of power, the commodification of children based on gender, and the use of violence to control women. Mr. Okafor, you have demonstrated through your own testimony and the evidence presented that you are unfit for custody. You have committed adultery with multiple women, engaged in financial fraud, attempted to bribe court officials, and assaulted a pregnant woman. You have treated your daughters as disappointments simply because of their gender, a mindset that is not only morally reprehensible but psychologically damaging. Therefore, I am granting full temporary custody to Mrs. Chioma Okafor. You will have supervised visitation only, pending the outcome of the full divorce proceedings. Additionally, I am referring this case to the Attorney General's Office for criminal investigation into the assault, fraud, and attempted bribery. Mrs. Okafor, I'm also granting you an emergency protective order. Mr. Okafor is to have no contact with you except through attorneys and supervised visitation coordinators. He is to stay at least 500 meters away from your residence, your daughter's schools, and your place of business. Finally, I am ordering Mr. Okafor to pay immediate temporary support of 500,000 naira monthly for the children, plus restitution for the business he destroyed through arson. And yes, Mr. Okafor, I read the fire investigator's preliminary report that was submitted this morning. You're not as clever as you think. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down with finality. Chioma sat in stunned silence as the ruling sank in. She'd won. Her daughters were safe. Emeka's power over her life was broken. Across the aisle, Emeka sat rigid with rage and humiliation. As bailiffs approached to serve him with the protective order, his eyes met Chioma's. The hatred there was palpable, but so was something else: defeat. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Chioma stood with Adana and her mother, facing the cameras with new confidence. Today, justice was served, Chioma said. Not just for me, but for every woman who's been told she's not enough because she didn't produce a son. For every wife who suffered in silence while her husband committed infidelity and called it her fault. For every mother fighting to protect her children from toxic expectations. My daughters are watching this. Adiz, Amara, Chinelo, Zainab, I want you to know that you are perfect exactly as you are. Your worth is not determined by your gender, and anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong. Stand up for yourselves. Demand respect. Never settle for being treated as less than you are. This fight isn't over. We still have the full divorce proceedings ahead. But today, we proved that truth matters, that evidence matters, and that no amount of money or power can protect someone who chooses cruelty over compassion. As cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, Chioma felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Not just for herself, but for her daughters, for Ngozi, who was finally free from Emeka's control, and for all the women who would see this story and find courage to fight their own battles. That evening, back at Adana's estate, Chioma's 4 daughters surrounded her on the couch. They'd watched the news coverage with their grandmother, understanding far more than Chioma had expected. "Mama, you were so brave," Adiz said. "We're all brave," Chioma corrected. "Every day we choose to be kind, to be strong, to value ourselves. That's bravery." Her phone buzzed. A message from Kemi, Emeka's former assistant. "Congratulations. You did what I wish I'd been brave enough to do years ago. Emeka just fired his entire legal team and is apparently leaving Lagos. Rumor is he's fleeing to avoid the criminal investigation. You broke him." Chioma didn't feel triumph at that news, just a weary sadness that it had come to this. But she'd done what she had to do to protect her daughters and herself. Another message came through, this one from Ngozi. "Thank you for helping me even after everything I did. I don't deserve your kindness. I'm going to get help, therapy, treatment for whatever is broken in me that made me hurt you like that. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm truly sorry. And Chi, you're the strongest person I've ever known." Chioma stared at the message for a long time before responding. "I hope you find peace, Ngozi. We all deserve that." As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Chioma held her daughters close and finally allowed herself to believe that everything would be okay. The domestic betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but instead, it had revealed her strength. The infidelity in marriage had broken her heart, but it had also freed her to build a better life. She was no longer just a wife defined by her husband's expectations or a woman measured by the children she bore. She was Chioma Okafor, mother, businesswoman, survivor, warrior. And she was enough. She had always been enough. Thank you for following Chioma's journey. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share with anyone who needs to hear that they are enough exactly as they are. Comment below with your thoughts on the ending, and let us know where you're watching from. What lesson from Chioma's story resonated most with you? Share this video with someone who loves powerful stories of resilience and justice. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Remember, you are worthy, you are strong, and you deserve respect.